They move through the hallway, past portraits whose faces are blurred by grime, as if the house itself wants to erase them. One frame tilts askew, and when the narrator straightens it, they see something carved faintly into the plaster behind it, a set of initials, half scratched away. Not their initials, but familiar enough to spark unease. The carving is jagged, hurried, the mark of someone desperate to leave proof. The narrator's stomach knots, realizing the past did not vanish. It merely hid beneath layers of dust and silence. At the end of the hall, the attic door looms. Its latch is weak, but the wood swells against the frame like a body pressing against a coffin lid. When they push, the door yields with a sigh, releasing air that smells of cedar and ash. The attic is dark, but moonlight slides through cracks in the roof, striping the floor in silver. There, near the center, is what draws the eye. A patch of boards misaligned, edges raised slightly. As though the house itself grew tired of hiding what sleeps beneath, the narrator kneels, heart pounding with the rhythm of footsteps long gone. They press their palm against the boards, feeling the hollow beneath. This is it, the floor that is weighted, patient and cruel. Fingers fumble at the edges, nails scraping splinters, until one plank shifts free with a brittle crack. The sound echoes too loudly, as if the whole house has been listening. Beneath, shadows pool like ink, deep and silent. They lower a hand into the darkness, touching metal cold as ice, the shape too deliberate to be debris. A box, locked and waiting. Pulling it out, they see initials again, carved into the lid with the same desperate hand that marked the wall. The lock is rusted, weak, and with a twist of effort, it snaps open. The lid creaks, and inside rests a collection of objects that do not belong together. A photograph torn in half, a silver chain, a folded letter brittle with age, and a small cassette tape labeled with one name, their own. The narrator stares at the contents, breath shallow, realizing that this is no longer about ghosts or memory. It is about identity itself, carefully hidden, carefully constructed, and now unraveling in their hands. The silence of the attic thickens, pressing close, waiting for the next move. Because once the tape plays, nothing can ever be unknown again. The cassette lies in the narrator's palm like a shard of time, small, fragile, but sharp enough to cut through every lie they have ever swallowed. Dust clings to its plastic, the handwriting on the label faint but unmistakable, their own names, written in a hand that trembles even on paper. For a moment, the attic feels smaller, the shadows closer, as though the house itself leans in to listen. The other objects in the box, a torn photo, a silver chain, the folded letter blur at the edges. All that matters now is the tape. But the attic does not hold a player. The narrator remembers one, though. A clunky old recorder that used to sit on the kitchen counter of this very house, once used for bedtime stories, later for messages never returned. If the house still has bones of truth, it may still hold the machine. With the cassette clutched tight, the narrator descends the stairs, every step echoing through the hollow walls like a countdown. The air below is colder now, as if secrets shed their warmth when brought closer to the surface in the kitchen. Beneath a shroud of dust and broken glass, they find it. The recorder is old, cracked, but stubbornly intact, as if it too has been waiting. The narrator wipes it clean with a sleeve, slides the tape into its slot, and presses play. At first, only static hisses like the sound of rain on a forgotten night. Then, a voice. Clear, measured. A voice that should not know their name, but does. The voice begins without introduction, speaking as though it has been in conversation with the listener all along. It tells of choices made in haste, of identities borrowed and exchanged, of a truth too heavy to place on a child. You were never meant to know, it says, but you must. The narrator grips the edge of the counter as the words unravel the story. A family that is not theirs by blood. A life stitched together by necessity, a name handed down like a mask. Each sentence strips away another layer, leaving the narrator exposed. Raw, trembling, the tape pauses, static filling the silence like a heartbeat. Then the voice returns, softer now, as though it fears its own power. Look at the photo. It says, Look at the face you do not recognize but should. That is where it begins. The recorder clicks, the tape stops, and the silence that follows is louder than the voice itself. The narrator stares at the torn photograph from the box, hands shaking. Half a face smiles up at them, one eye missing from the tear, but the other alive with a resemblance that cannot be denied. It is like looking into a fractured mirror, one that shows not who you are, but who you were never told you could be. The attic above creaks as if shifting under the weight of truth, and the whole house seems to breathe. The vow returns once more, but now it feels heavier, not to hide. But what if hiding was all that kept the world stitched together? The photograph trembles in their grip, the letters still unread, the chain still coiled. And yet, the silence insists there is no turning back. The letter waits like a blade wrapped in paper. Folded so neatly it feels ceremonial, as if whoever placed it in the box knew this moment would come. Knew these hands would one day unfold it. The narrator hesitates, staring at the fragile creases, afraid that opening it will not only reveal words, but also ignite consequences that can never be undone. But silence is heavier than fear, and with trembling fingers, they break the seal of time. The handwriting sprawls across the page in hurried strokes, ink blotched in places as though written in a rush between heartbeats. At first, the words resist meaning, just loops and scratches swimming before their eyes. Then they settle, and the truth sharpens. The letter speaks not like a confession, but like a command, detailing the story of a child passed into another family's arms. A choice made to protect, or perhaps to erase. It speaks of danger, of debts that could not be paid, of a lineage marked by more than just blood. The narrator feels the floor sway beneath them. Every line of the letter is another nail torn from the framework of their identity. You were not abandoned, the words insist. You were hidden. Hidden from enemies who would have claimed you, hidden from truths that could destroy more than one life. But secrets, like weeds, do not stay buried. They crawl back to the surface, demanding air. At the bottom of the page, scrawled hastily, is a name that does not belong to the family that raised them. A name that vibrates through the air like an old song half remembered. The narrator whispers it aloud, and the sound feels both foreign and natural, like a second skin sliding back into place. The walls seem to lean closer, the old house listening with interest. Their pulse hammers as they glance back at the box, at the silver chain coiled like a serpent, waiting. The chain carries a pendant engraved with the same name written in the letter. It is proof, physical and undeniable, heavy in the palm, warming as though it recognizes its rightful owner. For a moment, the narrator cannot breathe. Caught between the life they have known and the life that has been thrust upon them, the tape. The photo, the letter, the chain, each piece has fallen into place, a puzzle forming an image they never asked to see. Yet one question remains, sharp as glass. If this was all meant to protect them, then who sent the new message, and why now? The voice that arrived in the voicemail had known exactly when to strike, exactly how to open the wound. This is not random. This is orchestration. As the narrator grips the chain, the weight of inheritance and deception pressing down, the vow echoes again not to hide. But this time the words feel less like a promise and more like a threat to those who kept them in the dark. The city outside murmurs through the broken windows, as if waiting for the next step. And in that pause, the narrator knows the letter is not the end. It is the beginning of a reckoning. The house exhales around the narrator, its walls creaking like old bones releasing their last secrets. The cassette, the torn photograph, the chain, the letter, all of it rests before them, proof that the life they lived was only half a life. But the voicemail, the spark that lit this fire, still waits unanswered. Its voice had been too precise, too deliberate. Whoever sent it knew exactly where to strike, and that means the story is not finished. The narrator leaves the attic with the box clutched tight, stepping into the night where the city hums like an endless stage. Streetlights flicker, cars pass, but every sound feels like a cue leading them forward. The chain hangs from their neck now, heavier than iron, not because of its weight, but because of its meaning. With each step, the vow sharpens. No more hiding, no more silence. They find themselves back on the bridge, the place where the note first called them. The air is cold, water below whispering in currents. The phone vibrates suddenly in their pocket, a new message. The screen glows with the same number that sent the first one. No name, just a presence. The narrator's hand hovers, the memory of the voice still echoing in their chest. They answer, "Do you want to hear a secret that can break a family and still save it at the same time? Stay with me." Because the next breath might be the one where everything changes. Night air presses against the city like a held breath. Windows glow, streets hum, and in a small apartment, a phone screen lights up with a single message. An old voice note has been found. The sender is unknown. The timestamp is from a year that no one in this house speaks about. A year they folded and hid in the back of a drawer. The screen brightness flickers. A kettle clicks in the kitchen. And our narrator stands in the doorway, listening to the silence that follows the beep of the notification. Silence that is not empty, but full of unsaid things. The way closets are full of winter coats in summer. The phone rests on the table like an invitation and a warning. The narrator does not touch it yet. Hands grip the chair back, knuckles pale. The city sound is a soft river under the room. Far sirens, a dog across the road, a fan ticking in its slow circle. Everything ordinary, everything ready to tip. You can almost feel how one tap could unwind a long thread. How one truth pulled free could turn a neat sweater into a tangled pile. The narrator breathes in and tastes metal, the taste you get when fear sits in your mouth and will not move. They think about the year on the timestamp. The last voicemail that came before the accident. The way apologies crowd your throat when there is no one left to hear them. They think about the photo that still hangs crooked in the hall because no one wants to touch it. As if straightening it would admit that something else is crooked and cannot be fixed. The kettle in the kitchen cools without being poured. A little cloud of steam drifts and fades. The phone waits. The narrator imagines the unknown sender, someone who knows where the bones are buried. Someone who knows the key fits a door that has not opened in years. They reach and stop, reach and stop. Like a swimmer testing water that might be colder than expected. Outside, a lift opens and closes. Footsteps pass. Laughter rises and falls. The world continues. The narrator thinks about promises. About the sentence spoken at a hospital bed that was the shape of a vow. I will find out. I will not hide. I will not be like them. Words that felt brave and then turned heavy. They slide the phone closer. The sound the case makes on wood is a small scrape that feels too loud. There is a moment to choose to delete, to pretend the message never came. To say not tonight, and maybe not tomorrow. But that path is the old path, the one that keeps the lights dim and the doors shut. The narrator unlocks the screen. Thumb hesitates over the play icon in the chat. The blue triangle is so simple. A child's arrow pointing forward. As if forward is a place where things are better, they close their eyes. Tell themselves that whatever is inside the note is already true. Playing it does not make it more true, it only makes it known. And known is the first step to free. The breath they take is steady enough to stand on, they press play. The room fills with the sound of a voice that should not exist anymore. A voice more tired than it was in memory, rough and careful. Like someone crossing a floor of broken glass without shoes. The voice says a name, the narrator's name, and suddenly the apartment is smaller. The walls closer, the fans slower, the phone heavier. And the story begins, whether they are ready or not, the voice drifts through the speaker. Quiet, but sharp, like a blade wrapped in cloth. It says, listen carefully, because what you thought was buried has only been sleeping. The narrator grips the phone tighter, eyes tracing the cracks in the ceiling as if answers might be written there. The voice is familiar, yet wrong. The tone bending like light and water, pulling at memory, reshaping it. It names places, an old train station, a bridge where promises were once whispered, a streetlight that still flickers at midnight. Each word feels like a match tossed into dry leaves, sparking old visions the narrator tried to forget. The apartment becomes heavy with ghosts of footsteps. You can almost hear the echo of shoes on that train platform, smell the damp iron of the bridge rails, feel the chill of that particular night when laughter turned to silence. The voice does not rush. It knows the listener cannot run. It begins to reveal pieces of a story no one wanted told, fragments that twist like puzzle pieces forced into the wrong place. The narrator realizes this is not only a message, it is a map and instruction to go back, to retrace paths. To see what was missed, a tremor runs through the room. Not from the walls, but from the heart inside the narrator's chest. They think of the vow again, not to be like them, not to hide. But hearing the voice, they feel the weight of inheritance. The way secrets pass down like heirlooms, tarnished but unshakable. The message ends with a pause so long it feels like the world has stopped. Then, the last line, "You are not who they told you." Silence falls again, but this time, it presses harder. Like a hand covering the mouth of truth, the narrator lowers the phone slowly, staring at the screen as if expecting the voice to continue. Every object in the room seems changed. The crooked photo, the cold kettle, even the ticking fan, all waiting for a choice to be made. The night has shifted. The past is no longer past. And the narrator knows that to ignore this would be to step deeper into the same shadows that swallowed the year no one speaks of. They stand, the chair legs scrape the floor, and a journey they never wanted begins, not outside the door, but deep inside the walls of memory, where voices never really fade. The streets outside, stretch like veins under the city's skin, glowing in patches, fading in others, but the narrator does not see them the way others do. Tonight, every lamppost hums like a question, every shadow folds into another clue. The words from the message refuse to dissolve. They circle in the head like birds trapped in a room, wings beating against glass. Not who they told you. The line digs deep, it shakes roots loose. If not who they said, then who? Walking feels like stepping onto a stage already set. The cold pavement remembers footsteps from years ago, footsteps of a younger self running from truths too heavy to carry. The bridge comes into view, the same one the voice described. Its iron ribs still black against the sky, its surface damp with dew and silence. The narrator pauses at the edge, fingertips grazing the railing, and memory crashes in. A night with voices raised, a promise broken, a figure walking away and not turning back. The sound of rain on metal, smell of cigarettes that never left the jacket worn that night. But tonight the bridge is different. A slip of paper flutters against the railing, held by the faintest breeze. It should not be there, yet it waits, as if planted for this very return. The narrator lifts it, hands trembling, eyes scanning the uneven handwriting. 3 words only. Look beneath floor. The ink smudged, the paper thin, but the command sharp enough to cut through hesitation. The city's noise fades, placed by the thundering inside the chest. Look beneath floor. Whose floor? Which room? Then memory shifts again. The house long abandoned. With its peeling paint and locked attic, the one everyone pretended never existed. The family swore it was unsafe, condemned, but children whisper truer things. The floor that creaked with secrets, the boards that never rang hollow, the attic door that refused to stay shut. The note trembles in the narrator's hand. And in that instant, the bridge feels like more than steel. It feels like a threshold, the kind you cross once and never uncross. The wind sharpens, pushing them forward as if even the night wants answers. They fold the paper carefully, slide it into a pocket, and whisper to themselves the vow once more. Not to hide? Not anymore. The city breathes around them. Neon flickers, voices rise and fall, but the narrator walks away from it all. Toward the house that memory buried, but the message has exhumed. Every step is a drumbeat, every corner a stage light rising. They do not know what waits beneath the floor, but they know this. Some doors are not meant to stay locked forever. The house waits at the edge of the city, like a wound that never healed. Windows blind with dust, rooflines sagging as though it carries too many secrets. The gate hangs loose on rusted hinges, swinging in the wind with a slow, tired moan. The narrator stops at the threshold, chest tightening. Not from fear alone, but from recognition, because this is not just wood and brick, it is memory solidified. Childhood whispers echo in the overgrown yard games that ended too quickly. Footsteps that fled when the attic door rattled at night. Inside, the air is heavy, thick with the musk of years untouched. Wallpaper peels and curling tongues, floorboards groan with each step like reluctant witnesses. Dust floats in shafts of moonlight, turning the silence into something visible. The narrator's hand brushes the wall, fingertips dragging across paint that flakes away like scabs. The voice from the recording lingers in the back of the mind, not who they told you. And the note burns in the pocket, look beneath the floor. Each creak underfoot feels like a dare,